All right, so here we go. We're going to take a look at what's going on with Donald Trump on the Patrick Bet David podcast. You remember this guy? This guy had Sam Cedar on. This guy's had like everyone on. The lore behind him is supposedly he was in his words, he was in insurance, but what other people say is that he was doing multi-level marketing. He was kind of a scammer, right? He was very successful as a scammer, and then he used his money and his influence and his clout and everything to make himself a Joe Rogan-like figure on YouTube, to have his own podcast, and just getting way too much respect, way more respect than he deserves for what a silly guy he is. He's a silly, silly man, and you will see that. I will show you what a silly man Patrick Bet David is right after I hit this button. All right, let's see what we got here. There he is. Donald Trump has entered the bank vault. Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you more lore on PBD. He does his show from a bank vault, right? He bought like an old bank or a abandoned bank or something, and it's got these vaults, right, where people would put their money in valuables. And so if you go on a show and he likes you, and you're not Sam Cedar, he has you sign on the bank vault, right? You can see who does he like? Sebastian Gorka. That's Gorka right there, signing to the left. Above Trump, we have Kari Lake. I'm trying to see if I can recognize any other names from their signatures. I can't tell, chat. I can't tell, but yeah, there's a lot of MAGA. There's a lot of MAGA here. And here's the MAGA overlord himself, Donald Trump. He's come to sit down and get what he probably thinks is going to be a very low stakes exposure to some more low propensity voters, some more of the young male demographic that he's already got in the bag for him, that he hopes he can spur to come out in mass and push him over the finish line of the election, right? That's his strategy. Now, like, I wish I could tell you that Kamala's strategy was like much better. Unfortunately, it's not. But it is a shitty strategy. Donald Trump is in his flop era. He is flopping all over the place, and we're gonna see. I've heard there's some interesting exchanges, right? He's just been out of it lately, right? Having a town hall where he gets frustrated with questions and ends up switching to his Spotify playlist, and he just kind of like does his little jerk off the giraffes dance while the music plays. He's answered questions about Google by talking about something completely different. Right, there's just a lot. There's a lot of signs that this guy might be experiencing as much or more age-related cognitive decline as Joe Biden. But unlike Joe Biden, he's not in a party. He's in a cult, and there's nobody to push him off. There's nobody to take his keys away. There's nobody to say, "Hey, for the good of the Republican Party, let's have some guy that's not sundowning right before our eyes. Let's put them on the table." No, Trump owns the Republicans. Trump owns them. So here he is, and with no further ado, I give you Mr. Donald John Trump.
Yes. Thank you very much.
You are a one of one.
Yeah, let's end the show right now.
Okay, so I want to get right into it. I got a lot of questions I want to ask you. Some of it's personal, some of it's business, some of it's politics. But something happened last week. Barack Obama, he's at this event, he's speaking.
Right.
And he's given this message about your economy, how great the economy was. And then at the end of it, he says, you didn't build that economy, I built this. I kind of want to get your reaction on this talk that he's given. Rob, if you can put that up.
And the reason some people think, wow, I don't know, I remember that economy when he first came in being pretty good. Yeah, it was pretty good, because it was my economy. We had 75 straight months of job growth that I handed over to him. It wasn't something he did. I had spent 8 years cleaning up the mess that the Republicans had left me the last time. So just in case everybody has a hazy memory, he didn't do nothing except those big tax cuts.
So how do you feel about this when you see him saying this last week?
I think he's angry. He pretends not to be, but I think he's an angry guy. He's a nasty guy. He's got a little bit of an edge, and he's angry about a lot of things. You look at what happened with Biden, and you look at what he did with Biden. He really hurt Biden because I'm not sure he wouldn't have imploded anyway. We had the debate, and he was down quite a bit, and they walked out, and they just took it away from him. I mean, if you think about it, they stole the election from a sitting president. That's, I always say coup, but the word coup, I don't think it's accurate enough. They just walked in and took it away from him. That is a...
Biden doesn't know how to do a proper coup. He should take some notes from the master over here, right?
Legendary thing. He didn't want to give up. He's angry now. They're all angry, the Democrats, if you think. She's angry. They're both angry. But
he's not angry. He's not angry. Trump isn't angry.
No, I watched that last week, and I think he spoke down to black men. I thought it was terrible the way he spoke to them.
You think it's effective?
You wouldn't know about that, right, Donald? Speaking down to black people. That's not a thing that you do ever.
He still carries the same stick as he did, maybe 8 years ago or 12 years ago.
No, I don't think it is. No, I don't think he does. I think people have gotten smart. And no, I don't believe he does at all.
I'm sorry, the same stick? Can we be a little bit less phallic, PBD?
I hadn't seen him. He's changed a lot. Visually, he's changed. I like to say visually.
Oh, are you saying that he's getting older and he doesn't look like himself from a few years? Who else matches that description? Jeez.
As opposed to from the look standpoint, because, of course, looks don't matter anymore in politics, You say, looks don't matter. Doesn't make...
Otherwise, you'd be winning, Donald. Otherwise, your beautiful body would be winning the day.
We want to be politically correct, but they do matter. But
But they do matter. They should matter. Like, right, really photogenic, attractive candidates such as Donald Trump, they should be the ones that are chosen, but we're just too politically correct. Everything's woke now. All the sweet baby ink in the video games and the DEI and the DIE, everything's woke now. Everybody wants to be politically correct.
His look has changed actually quite a bit. I haven't seen him in a long time.
And by the way, Rob, I think that's even 4 years ago. I think it's even more than it is
Well,
today.
no, but the statement he just made was a couple of days ago. And that
it was a couple of days ago. And it's similar to the statement he made back in 2012.
Wait. Just sorry. Let's see this again.
The statement he just made.
Okay, now, are we looking at... This looks like 2008, or at the very latest, 2012. And this looks like now? Close to now? Yeah, look, if you look at Barack Obama from 2008 to 2016, his 8-year term as president, he very much aged. And I guess it makes sense. He was in his 40s when he started. This is when, it's when people, their hair starts to go gray, the wrinkles show up. It's bound to happen.
It was a couple of days ago. And
it was a couple of days ago. And it's similar to the statement he made back in 2012 when he told business owners, you didn't build that. Remember when he said that? I don't know if you remember that whole comment. I think this is the speech, Rob, if you want to play this.
If you got a business, you didn't build that. Somebody else made that happen.
Yeah, so if you don't know, I think this would have been 2012, right? This is the presidential campaign against Mitt Romney, who famously said, and this is probably what lost Mitt Romney the election, that was it makers and takers? Is that the phrase that he used? He talked about the fact that a certain percentage of the American public did not make enough money to be charged any income taxes, and implied that they were freeloading on all the rich people that were in his at his event, right? This got leaked and it was bad. It was bad because he's basically calling half of the country worthless freeloaders, right? And this is the part of the country that works the hardest, right? If you don't know, your rate of pay will go up with the ease of your work, right? The hardest jobs out there are often the lowest paid jobs out there.
So this becomes
So that pissed a lot of people off, and that lost Mitt Romney the election, and it revealed him as an out-of-touch, rich asshole, much like these two.
a pattern of
Communism.
You see a pattern of communism
Well,
there?
no, I mean, that's basically the view.
It's clearly Barack Obama, communist.
You know,
Do you think he's going to say Hussein?
do anything.
Right.
Government did it. Somebody did it, but anybody but us.
Do you think this works with the undecided voter? Do you think the undecided voter that's sitting, our audience, they're entrepreneurs, they're small business owners, they're family, they have kids, they want to win, they got dreams, they want to do something. Do you think a message like that from him lands on the business owner, on the undecided voter, on the person that says, you know what, I think he's right, I'm going to go vote for him? Do you think it works?
I think you don't have that many undecided voters. I think by now you have very strong Trump voters. I don't think you have strong Democrat voters, but I don't think you have strong Kamala voters. What's to vote for? I mean, take a look. She can't do an interview. She hasn't. Has she been in here to do an interview?
No, not yet.
I don't think you'll see her. You know,
She's claiming she's going to go on Rogan.
Well,
This is the guy that canceled 60 Minutes. This is the guy that's canceled like a ton of shit. This is the guy that does not want to exist outside of his safe space. Like, Kamala Harris, say what you want about her. She just went on Fox News. Do you think that Trump's going to show up on MSNBC anytime soon? Do you think that Trump's going to go into any sort of hostile space? It's just not. He's so full of shit.
that'll be interesting. So am I.
I heard.
But
Ice King of Space says they're based like rich assholes. True.
I think I am. I don't know. I think so.
I mean, that's who their real base is capitalists.
But it'll be interesting.
Unfortunately, Kamala's kind of vying for that base as well, with her bringing on Mark Cuban onto the campaign trail.
It'll be interesting to see what happens today with Brett Baer. You know, Brett's two people. He can be very nice, or he can be himself.
He was tough on you.
Okay, so the Fox campaign, the Fox interview hadn't happened yet.
If he's tough on her the way he was tough on you, he was very tough on you.
He was always nasty to me.
Oh yeah, Fox News is really tough on Trump, famously tough on Trump.
I don't think he'll be tough on her.
How about Trump on Don Lemon? Do you think we could get that? Do you think we could get Trump to go on Don Lemon's show?
I don't think he'll be. Fox is a very disappointing thing. During the days, Fox is just terrible. And but
I want to show something with this.
Wait, I'm sorry.
Davy Cliff super chatted $9.99. PBD doesn't have the signature white leather chairs, wonder why.
Wait. He doesn't have the signature white leather chairs? Is that not what he's sitting on?
Thing. I think the one thing they don't show, you were talking.
today's Fox is just terrible.
Okay, so he said during the day Fox is just terrible. If you don't know what he's talking about, he's alluding to the fact that Fox tries to establish itself as a real network these days, despite the fact that it was started basically to do Pravda for the Republican Party. Roger Ailes, who was integral in beginning Fox News, worked for Richard Nixon of Watergate fame, right? Back in the day. And Nixon had a problem. He would put out his message and the media would look at it and say, this isn't true. This isn't right. He's trying to put one over on us, right? And he didn't like this. He was like, why can't I go straight to the people? I want to trick the people. I want to lie to the people. The media keeps on getting in my way. What do I do, right? Roger Ailes is like, oh, Mr. Nixon, I got an idea. What if we had GOP TV? We had our own television network and you could go straight to the people. GOP TV would bring you on with no scrutiny and you'd be able to just like deliver your message straight out. You'd have your own television station. And Nixon was like, that's a little too much. Like, it's not going to work, right? That's people will see through it. In other words, that's what Nixon thought. Roger Ailes held on to that idea. And eventually Rupert Murdoch let him make that idea a reality. Fox News is GOP TV. Now, in order to establish their credibility, though, they've got to have sort of two parts to their organization. You got the news itself, and then you've got the commentary. The commentary happens at night, the Sean Hannitys, the Jesse Waters. It used to be the Tucker Carlsons, the Bill O'Reillys, right? This would happen at night, right? This is the opinion, right? And then you'd have the news during the day. But it was kind of unclear, you know, they didn't say, they didn't give you like a sign saying like, okay, we're going to the opinion segment now. Just understand this before was news, right? We were, you know, reporting the news, maybe with a little bit of a spin to it, but, you know, basically the news. And now is anything but news, right? Now is the propaganda. But yeah, I mean, that's their whole 1-2 punch, right? News and propaganda.
Well, terrible. And but
I want to show something with this. When you look at this whole Barack Obama thing, I think the one thing they don't show, you were talking yesterday, I think it was the Bloomberg event, which, by the way, I loved.
Yeah.
I love the way you handled the whole terrorist conversation. That was a great event.
He got cooked. He got cooked so hard. And the only reason that it didn't seem as bad as it was is because he had a very friendly audience, right? So there was a studio audience, or, you know, like there were people in the seats, and they were cheering him on, despite the fact that he couldn't answer a question about Google. They ask him about Google. He starts talking about the Department of Justice not letting him suppress votes in Virginia.
I got hoodwinked to go on that. You know, I was supposed to make
The 24-hour news cycle has ruined us.
in front of the Chicago Economic Club, which is a big deal, you know, which is a very prestigious place, beautiful. Everything was beautiful. And all of a sudden, I understand I'm being interviewed by this gentleman, and he's got a reputation for being about, oh, I'd love to see him do Kamala. He should do Kamala. That would be.
I've never heard him pronounce Kamala's name correctly. This is the first time. That's 2 in a row, too.
Beautiful, but he's a tough cookie, and he's the chairman of Bloomberg. He's a big. All of a sudden, I'm being interviewed.
You want to hear it again?
He should do Kamala. That would be beautiful.
He said Kamala.
Beautiful, but he's a tough cookie, and he's the chairman of Bloomberg. He's a big. All of a sudden, I'm being interviewed, and I wasn't happy about it because I found out that he is, you know, his reputation precedes him, and but I decided to do it. You know, you have a choice: walk out and don't do it and have a scandal, or go in and do it and hopefully win, or you go in and do it and you get killed, which is probably the worst. But it was a great interview, actually, and he was nasty, but he wasn't overly nasty to me. I mean, other people thought he was. I thought nastier was David Muir when he kept interrupting me during the debate and saying false things, like when I said crime is way up, and he said, no, crime is down. I said, you're wrong about that. Crime is up. And then 2 days later it came out that crime is up.
Right.
Bullshit. He's fucking lying. Crime is at historic lows, and it's been on a trend of getting lower and lower, right? But these assholes want to scare you that there's out of control crime and that it's all being caused by immigrants.
I mean, to me, that was much nastier.
Despite the fact that crime rates amongst undocumented people are actually lower than crime rates amongst U.S. citizens.
Than this gentleman, but it was really a study of business. It was a detailed study of business.
You're talking about with the Bloomberg one?
With the Bloomberg,
Right.
and people loved it.
I agree. The tariff one. And the one thing I wanted to show is the following. So you know how you talked about Jerome Powell, what an easy job. You come once a month and he said, we're going to increase the rates.
Greatest job there is.
I think this is the one thing they don't talk about. So
Here we go. So let's take a look here at... Oh my God, it's too quiet.
What about consumers, people out there?
They're going to be the biggest beneficiary.
Yeah, critics say your tariffs will end up being like a national sales tax.
Nope.
Because
The countries will pay.
if you have America,
Fuck me.
$3 trillion worth of imports. You're
Why do people upload shit like... I'm sorry, I'm like yelling at somebody on Twitter. That's not nice. Nobody yells at people on Twitter. You're supposed to be nice to people on Twitter. Oh my God. All right, let's use the filter.
And they don't have to pay. And if the higher the tariff, the more likely it is to have them come into the
the higher
country.
the tariff, the more you're going to put on the value of that piece, those goods. The higher.
Okay, let's try somebody that can get the volume right. Wow. Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm too mean for Twitter chat. See if this one is loud enough.
People out there,
They're going to be the biggest beneficiaries.
yeah, critics say your tariffs will end up being like a national sales tax.
Nope.
Because
the countries
if
will pay.
if you have America at the moment has $3 trillion worth of imports, you're going to add tariffs to every single one of them. That is going to push up the cost for all those people who want to buy foreign goods.
Okay, so now this is Bloomberg. This is a bunch of rich assholes, but he's actually right. He's speaking the truth. We're talking about tariffs, Chad. If you don't know what tariffs are, it is a essentially like a tax on goods that are produced for in another country, right? So there's two ways that tariffs can go, right? One way is where the government makes a little bit of money, and that's when the tariff is low. There's a tariff, but it's low. So in other words, the foreign product is still somewhat competitive, maybe not as much competitive, but it's going to still be sold, right? And that is a tariff that the United States can make a little bit of money. Now, not a lot of money, right? Because remember, it's a low tariff, right? The other kind is if you do the kind of tariffs that Donald Trump is talking about. He's talking about like 200%. If you put a 200% tariff on something, you're essentially making it so that it can't be sold. The price for this item will be so high that you won't be able to sell it, which means that it doesn't go into government coffers. It doesn't make the U.S. any money. So either way, the U.S. doesn't really make money. That's his one claim. The second claim is that it's going to, help American businesses. Look, tariffs can be useful if there are burgeoning industries, if there are new industries in the United States, and they need help they need a little boost, to compete with foreign competitors, right? But you can't just use them as a policy on everything, or else everything starts to get really expensive. And what does a tariff do again? Well, it increases the price. Who pays the price? The consumer. So essentially, it is identical to putting a sales tax on something. And there aren't many items anymore. Like take a car, for instance, right? He talks about the auto industry. He talks about American cars. The most American car you're going to get is like 75% American, because cars are maybe assembled in the United States, but they are they are put together from parts, many of which are made elsewhere, right? Take for instance those cameras that help you back up, right? Those are almost all foreign made. So if you want a modern car that that does the parking camera, right? You're going to be using foreign parts, and that car under Trump, under his system of tariffs, is going to be more expensive. So he's absolutely full of shit. He's trying to do like we're going to build the wall and make Mexico pay for it thing again, right? Which was also a canard. But in this case, like he's trying to imply that somehow the people that pay the tariff are the business importing exporting their product into the United States. That's just not true. The price, the higher price of these goods are paid by the consumer. And when the price for the foreign goods go up, that puts upward pressure on the prices for domestic goods. So even if you do have, you can source something completely from the United States, that's going to cost more too. So yeah, he's talking about a batshit policy that is from the 1800s that would essentially equate to a tax, at point of purchase, a sales tax. In other words, the most regressive tax you can have, a tax that mostly impacts the poor and middle class. And everybody knows this.
Now, what's going to happen?
That is just simple mathematics, President Trump.
It is, but not the way you figure it. I was always very good at mathematics. Yes. Let me tell you, you're saying $3 trillion. Those companies,
$3 trillion worth of
and they don't have to pay. And if the higher the tariff, the more likely it is to have them come into the country.
The higher the tariff, the more you're going to put on the...
So he's, hypothesizing that maybe eventually a business would move their facilities into the United States rather than and he's saying pay the tariff. Like, this is the part that he's just absolutely wrong on. The companies don't pay the tariffs. You pay the tariffs, I pay the tariffs, right? Tariffs are paid at point of purchase through higher prices.
The value of that piece, those goods, the higher people are going to pay in shops.
Ready? The higher the tariff, the more likely it is that the company will come into the United States and build a factory in the United States.
And how long would that take? And what are you going to do for the consumers that are paying out their ass? What are you going to do for the American people that are going to pay an average of $3,000 to $4,000 more per year? You're putting a $4,000 tax on the average American laborer.
Doesn't have to pay the tariff.
Davy Cliff super chatted $9.99 because increasing tariffs for things like tea has gone so well in American history.
Hell yeah. Yeah, he's basically, this is the King George, economic policy.
In fact, I'll tell you, there's another theory is that the tariff, you make it so high, so horrible, so obnoxious that they'll come right away. When I do the 10%.
But you got to admit that tariff, right? If the result of it is either that the foreign goods don't get sold in the United States or that the factory moves, then you're not going to make money from it. He's trying to say that he's going to replace taxation, replace income tax, which falls heavier on wealthy people and on the owner class, right? He's going to replace that with tariffs, which falls heavier on working people, but in order to fund the government. But if they're moving their factory, then they're not funding the government. Do you see what I mean? Any way you slice this, Donald Trump is the Mad Hatter, being like, "I will fix your watch. Let me put some butter and some jam in it, and I promise you it'll work much better."
10% is really, first of all, 10% when you collect it is hundreds of billions of dollars. The numbers that you're talking, all reducing our deficit. But really, so there's two ways of looking.
You can't have it both ways, asshole.
You can do it as a money-making.
I swear to God, his brain is eaten up by syphilis.
Instrument, or you can do it as something to get the companies. Now, if you want the companies to come in, the tariff has to be a lot higher than 10% because 10% is not enough. Guys, they're not going to do it for 10. But you make a 50% tariff, they're going to come in.
Because it was so peaceful.
God damn.
But now there are freaking communist invading radicals.
Chat, I am looking forward to the possibility of not having to hear anything from Donald Trump after the election. I can't guarantee you that that's what's happening. I wish I could.
But now there are freaking communist invading.
I can guarantee you my sub count is going up, but I cannot guarantee you that he's going to lose. Damn, we're welcome in communist invading radicals. But I'm looking forward to it if it's possible. Like, I don't like how Kamala has run her campaign. I feel like a lot of she's done a lot of self-harm in terms of her policies and her decisions to go for trying to get some centrist Republicans rather than doing anything for her base. She's really fucked herself over in states like Michigan and Pennsylvania when it comes to a lack of an ability to differentiate herself from Biden on her Israel policy. So there are a lot of things that make me very nervous about this election, but I do think there's a good chance that Trump will lose, and I'm looking forward to never having to see him babble on
Then COVID came, and we had because I tell you what, I did a very good job in COVID. Nobody knew what the hell it was. I call it the China virus because I like.
You call it the China virus because of course you do.
Being a little more accurate.
one of the major problems they put in place is both
Oh, what is this? Oh, this is a libertarian thing. We don't care.
What does the Wall Street Journal know? I'm meeting with them tomorrow. What does the Wall Street Journal know? They've been wrong about everything. So have you, by the way. You've been wrong about
You're trying to turn this. You're trying to turn this.
You've been wrong.
No, you're trying to turn this into debate.
Well, no, he's trying to. Yeah, he's leveraging the fact that he's got a friendly crowd there. To the fact that he's talking bullshit economics to somebody who actually knows economics.
Business people.
Now, these aren't good people, right? This is, these are fucking, capitalist assholes, but
you're wrong.
People.
You've been wrong. You've been wrong.
But even they recognize that this guy doesn't know what he's talking about.
What is the Wall Street Journal?
Okay, so let's see. I'm trying to get to the Google.
When you looked at the Supreme Court, you came up with a list of people
I did.
who you thought of replacing, bringing in as Supreme Court justices.
Yeah.
Would you do that with the Federal Reserve?
Well, I no longer need it. It was a great thing. In fact, a lot of people said I got elected because of that. I was an unknown quantity. I was very known as a business guy, but I wasn't known as a political person or the leader of a country. And people were very worried about, actually they were worried, am I going to be liberal, if you want to know the truth? And somebody said, would you come up with a list of 20 or 25 justices, in this case mostly judges, that you'd put in case it were necessary? Now, it's amazing because I got 3 in 4 years. Most people get...
It's amazing what happens when you steal a Supreme Court seat. It is truly amazing.
None.
But yeah, to all the people that said that having Trump in as president for 4 years wouldn't be a big deal, wouldn't cause any permanent, damage to the country. Yeah, this is why Roe versus Wade got taken down. Because of this asshole, right? And he did indeed get to name 3 justices. Now, one of those justices was somebody that should have been named by Obama, but the Republicans broke with, convention and refused to refused to hold hearings for that, for Merrick Garland.
You put them in the young. You tend to put them in young. Only stupid people put old. You don't put old in because they're there for 2 years.
Do you see the irony of what he's saying? Do you see the irony? You put young in. You don't put old in.
For 3 years.
You're
so you put them in young. So I got.
You're a 78-year-old man, is what the response is.
A lot of judges.
Oh, he's not even going to respond. He's got nothing. He's just hoping he can talk over the guy. I want to show you if I can find the fucking backhandedly calls Nick Fuentes a Fed. Wait, what is that?
And some people went to the Capitol, and a lot of strange things happened there. A lot of strange things with people being waved into the Capitol by police, with people.
So talking about January 6th.
Screaming, go in with that never got into trouble. I don't want to mention names, but you know who they are. A lot of strange things happened. But you had a peaceful, very peaceful.
It's a funny thing that happens with stuff like January 6th, stuff like the Patriot Front group, the fascist group that masks themselves. Republicans' response to these open displays of fascism is often, these are not right-wingers, these are feds, these are FBI agents, or these are Antifa. And it's funny because they are like the tip of the spear when it comes to, they are the right-wing brown shirts, right? And, it's just kind of this like Spider-Man meme where they're calling each other feds. I'm trying to find I really want to find you that Google question. Okay, Trump, Bloomberg, Google. Also, thank you, Omegastar, for the gifted sub to Ice King of Space. Ice King of Space, you just got weaseled, and that's a good thing. Okay, that's the tariffs thing. Oh, here we go. This is the money right here.
I just haven't gotten over something the Justice Department did yesterday, where Virginia cleaned up its voter rolls and got rid of thousands and thousands of
Now, Trump fans, explain this to me. All right? Biden couldn't handle the debate. Biden wasn't cogent enough to answer the questions he was asked. Trump just answered a question about breaking up Google with a grievance about not being able to knock voters off the roll in Virginia, about not being able to disenfranchise people in Virginia, right?
The Justice Department.
He's living in his own fucking world.
Sued them that they
If Biden's too old to be president, what do you say about this guy?
Be allowed to put those bad votes and illegal votes back in and let the people vote. So I haven't
let the people vote by denying the people the right to vote. Yeah.
I haven't gotten over that. A lot of people have seen that. They can't even believe it.
The question is about Google, President Trump.
Yeah.
And if that hadn't been a friendly crowd that he was in front of there would have been deafening laughter. Anyway, that's the that's what they're talking about. The Economic Club of Chicago, hosted by Bloomberg News. You know, this is should be an embarrassment for Trump. Here, let's roll it back to where they're talking about that.
And I said, you're wrong about that. Crime is up. And then 2 days later, it came out that crime is up.
Right.
I mean, to me, that was much nastier than this gentleman. But it was really
he's doing the weave.
It was a detailed study of business.
You're talking about with the Bloomberg one?
With the Bloomberg,
Right.
and people loved it.
I agree. The tariff one. And the one thing I wanted to show is the following. So you know how you talked about Jerome Powell, what an easy job. You come once a month and he said, we're going to increase the rates.
Greatest job there is.
I think this is the one thing they don't talk about. So Barack Obama got elected November 4th. Okay, quantitative easing started November 26th.
Right.
And it stayed for 8 years until you got elected.
Right.
So if you look at that low, pretty much 0% interest rate,
right,
and then you get elected, right, if you go to January 2016, Rob, for the audience to see that, and then from there, one by one, rates are going up, and then Biden comes in, goes back down to zero to try to save the economy, and then, you know, the rest is obviously history.
The Federal Reserve operates independently of the president in theory, right? And responds to the needs of the economy. That's at least what's supposed to be going on. But no, according to these guys, it is a deep state conspiracy theory involving the Federal fucking Reserve. Right? Look, Obama, they're really nice to him because they want him to have a good economy. But you come in and they look like, you know, it's literally they're responding to pressures like inflation versus pressures like unemployment. And yeah, after COVID.
Right.
But do you think the average person knows, like, the impact of going to 0%? How much does that positively help the impact when Fed lowers the rates to 0.5 point?
Yeah, it has a huge impact. The power of the Fed is, I think, pretty strong. Some people disagree with it. They think it's overridden by the interest rate climate. But I think the power of the Fed is very strong. It's an interesting graph, actually.
I mean, look, the idea is supposed to be that the Fed operates on behalf of the country, not on behalf of the president, right? Presidents would like to have low rates. Sometimes that is, going to lend itself towards inflation.
Just shows that the rates didn't help you. You know, when he says it was...
Well, they didn't use them to help me.
Right.
And Powell, I gave him a hard time because he was raising them. And I was never a big fan of his. He was late and he was early. He was too early and too late, But I had the greatest economy in history. We had the greatest economy in the history of our country. Despite that, this is another thing I can say, despite the fact that they weren't very high, but they were, reasonably high. And despite the rates not being at zero, I had a pretty good, we had a great run.
Following up on the Barack Obama question, when I think about the 2024 election, I saw some numbers that came out, which I thought was fascinating.
Right.
Rob, if you can pull this up from CNN. So this is CNN reporting on this just 2 days ago. Okay, Barack Obama, when it comes down to black men ages 18 to 44, He was up 81 points in November of 2012. Hillary was up 63 when she went against you.
Yeah.
Biden was up 53. Kamala, who is apparently black, she's up 41. And
what do you mean by apparently?
I mean, that's what they're telling us.
Oh.
You're saying it so he doesn't have to, I guess.
We're supposed to believe she's black.
No,
and, you know,
it's much better that, no. See, I would never say a thing like that. But just
You have, and you got fucking cooked for it. But now PBD's gonna dive on that sword for you, I guess.
don't explain what you mean. No, I don't want to put you in trouble.
Yeah,
no, he's doing it for you. He's letting you do that. He's letting you do it so it gets said, but you don't have to say it.
I was gonna throw it onto your shoulders. Apparently, well, no, you could explain it because I understand.
I'm very comfortable explaining it because overnight, she's doing a show. She's supposed to be Indian, and then all of a sudden now it's black, but it's not landing with the average American. So if you look at this,
you know what's really not landing with the average American is getting weird about Kamala Harris's ethnicity. That's what's not landing, right? Acting like somebody having like a mixed background is like this weird thing that we can't possibly understand. That's what's not landing. Like you being a fucking weirdo about that. That's what's not landing.
Black men, that's why she's not doing well.
Well, watch this.
Some people say that.
In 2016, you had 13%
right.
of male black voters 18 to 44.
Right.
In 2020, you had 18%. In 2024, you're at 26%. It's doubled in 8 years. The question I'm asking you is the following. Back in 1960,
right.
64% of African Americans would vote Democrat.
Right.
The other was pretty much conservative. African Americans have historically been very conservative.
Okay.
Barry Goldwater, the issue happens, 1964.
Right.
It goes from 64% Democrat to 92%. And it's been between 85 to 92% since 1964, right? You've come in and you've shaken things up. Do you think 2024 is going to be one of those moments where African-American men, they're like, listen, I'm sick and tired of Democrats feeling like they own me. I think I'm going to go to the other side. Do you think 2024 could be one of those years that we look back and say they lost the African-American vote?
They really lost it for a while, the Republicans. I mean, it started, I guess, with Barry Goldwater, if you look at the charts. But I did criminal justice.
Yeah, it started when civil rights was passed and the Republican Party opposed it. It started when the Dixiecrats, the racist element within the Democratic Party, got pissed off and started to leave the party. Ran their own presidential candidate at one point, and the racist Democrats became the anti-busing Republicans. That's what we're talking about. It's a realignment, which Republicans will often. It's funny, right? Because you'll get a lot of Republicans who deny that this ever happened. They'll try to be like, they'll look at like Abraham Lincoln, right? He was signed the Emancipation Proclamation, so therefore Republicans are like anti-racist or something. And it's like, yo, that was like 1860. That was in the 1860s, right? And they want to pretend, they want to exploit people's ignorance about the realignment. Like people don't kind of take this for granted. But there was a realignment in the 60s after the Democrats passed civil rights, the Voting Rights Act, and a whole bunch of other legislation.
Reform.
And the Republicans took advantage of it, right? Lee Atwater was on fucking video explaining the Southern strategy. This is what they call it, the Republican Southern strategy to appeal to racist former Democrats in the South. And those people realigned with the Republican Party.
A big thing. They've been trying to get it. I saw a guy named Van Jones. He's I don't think anybody knows who he is. He's a commentator for CNN. And he came to see me in the White House, and he was crying.
I remember that.
He was crying because I bring these things up because it's a lack of, I don't know, there's something about loyalty. You help somebody with something. He came in with a fairly large group of people, mostly black people, and he was devastated because criminal justice reform wasn't going to happen. Obama
Thomas
didn't do it.
Super chatted $5.91. Lincoln, Wallace, and Grant were the exceptions to the rule even back then.
As far as the Republicans?
And didn't even...
I mean, so the Civil War is around the time, slightly after the inception of the Republican Party, right? It's breaking away from the Democratic Republican Party of old.
Come close. Bush didn't try. Nobody was going to do it. And I'm the...
But I think what Thomas is pointing out here is the fact that there wasn't a lot of like, we're talking, so the post-Civil War period is called the Reconstruction period. And Reconstruction was a project to try to empower Black people in the South, because obviously they'd been subject to having their labor exploited for free as slaves prior to that. And the racism, the hatred of Black people was a lot stronger and more outward in the South, right? There was an attempt to station Union troops in the South and to really bring about like a change, right? This lasted for a few years and then was quickly given up on. And by the time by the time the turn of the century rolled around, you had white people in the North feeling more sympathy with the losing cause of the South than with Black people in the South, right? These are people whose ancestors had fought the South in the Civil War, who are now watching films like Birth of a Nation, admiring the bravery of the KKK, watching films like Gone with the Wind, feeling a romanticism towards the South, right? So yeah, that didn't last very long.
The only one that could have done it. And he was with a group of people that they were begging to do it. They were 5 votes short, and they had to be conservative.
Omega Star, thank you for the gift sub to Valerie the Lovely Italian. Valerie the Lovely Italian, you just got weaseled, and that's a good thing.
Because there was nobody else left, right? And I guess you needed the 61 or 60-something, maybe 66, but 61 is a hard vote. And he made a plea to me, Van Jones, total sleazebag. He made a plea to me to help him and help this group of people. And I
don't know where he's going with this, but for the record, I'm not a super fan of Van Jones either. Although I gotta say, he got done dirty by PBD here. He's listed as Vance Jones.
Explained how for years they've been trying to get it, and they've been unable to get it. And I said, well, let's take a look at it. And I studied it for a little while and spoke to them. And I said, you know what? I'm going to help you. It's going to help the Black people in particular. And I'm going to get it for you guys. And I called up 5 very conservative senators. And I'll never forget one of the senators who was in charge of it. He was literally leading the charge against it. And I mean, his whole career was this. He was going to stop criminal justice reform. Not because he was, anti-Black, just he didn't like it. He didn't want it. And he was in the papers every day. He's fighting it, winning very easily. And I helped him get elected. Without me, he wouldn't have gotten elected. I'll never forget it. I called him up. Now, he's in the heat of passion. He is fighting this all the way. Not something he would ever give up. You couldn't, there's some things you can't. I call him up. He gets on the phone. I didn't say a word. I said, hello. And he goes, I'm giving it to you. I said, what are you giving me? I'm giving you criminal justice reform. That's why you're calling, right? I said, it is why I'm calling. He said, you got me elected. I disagree with you, but I'm giving it to you just like that. I said, That's one of the coolest things I've ever heard, because I also have the opposite, where I got a lot of people elected. You know, when I endorse somebody in history, and I don't want to brag, but in history, you can get another chart on that one. I mean, I'm like 289 and almost nothing for endorsements. And he said, "You got me elected. I wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for you." And I did, but I got a lot of people elected, and some of them forget. And I said, "That's the coolest thing." I said, "Thank you." I said, "Do you mind if I call a couple of the..." "Nope, you do whatever you want." Now, this is a guy who was the leader of the fight. I didn't even ask. He knew what I was calling for, because he knew that I was going to help Van Jones, this Van Jones guy. I was going to help him. And you'll understand why I'm being nasty to him now, because what happened later is disgraceful. So I said, "Thank you very much, Senator. I'm so happy that I did help you. I think loyalty is a great thing." And that was it. So I had his vote. I then called 4 other guys, all of whom were against it. And I said, "I'd love to have..." And they, they don't do it for a lot of presidents, but they do it for me. And I got them 5 votes that they needed, and criminal justice reform passed, right? Then, and I was happy for them. I was happy for everybody. Everybody was happy. They couldn't believe they got it done. And it was something that really the black population wanted far more than anybody else. I've never even heard it mentioned with other people. It was mostly the black population. And they've been fighting it for, like, what, you'd say 40, 50 years, right?
64.
So we got
40,
it done.
50 years, yeah.
Yeah. So I got it done. I got something done. I got a lot of things done that nobody else could have gotten done. So what happens is Van Jones and all, they called for a news conference that night. The vote was taken. They got it done. And I said to my wife, "Come on over here. This is beautiful. This is a beautiful thing to watch. Watch this. This gentleman was in my office a number of weeks ago, and they needed votes, and I got it done. It'll be nice to watch somebody really say something."
See, now here's the deal. All right. The entire media is making a big deal about the movement of a tiny proportion of voters, right? And in some way, it's a movement that's to be expected, right? Having a constituency vote like 90% for one candidate and 100% and 10% for the other, or like 8%, right? That's not normal. That's not usual. But he's not helping himself. Donald Trump cannot help but be a weirdo about things like race. I mentioned before him questioning Kamala's background. There's also the things that he said about having a bigger crowd at January 6th than Martin Luther King, right? In a lot of ways, the natural movement, the natural dispersion of votes between the candidates is probably being held back by how weird Donald Trump is to black people, right? He said he calls Mark Robinson from North Carolina, the guy that refers to himself as a black Nazi. He called that guy Martin Luther King on steroids. It's not the only weird thing he said about Martin Luther King, too. He said that he had a bigger crowd at January 6th than Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech. So,
something nice about your husband. I said that to Melania, and I said, "Watch this." And they got up and they spoke, but Van Jones got up, and it was a little. I don't get too embarrassed, He got up. He thanked this one. He thanked that one. He thanked this one, that one, that one. The only one he.
That being said, the Democrats do have a nasty habit of taking constituencies that they assume are voting overwhelmingly for them for granted. And that's not good, because the Republicans are really good at picking up on people that the Democrats leave behind. Naomi Klein, I'm not going to bore you with books too much, right? But Naomi Klein's book, Doppelganger, actually goes over this as being a strategy of Steve Bannon himself, right? That they look for groups that the Democratic Party has thrown under the bus, and they try to, do outreach. And whether or not they really have anything to offer, whether or not they, they they want to do anything that's actually going to benefit this group, they're able to capitalize on the Democrats' just tendency to take groups for granted and to throw people under the bus when it's politically expedient. A lot of times the Democrats' moves that they make for political expediency do not end up being, in the long run, politically expedient. And they are their own worst enemies.
I didn't think was Donald Trump. And I look at that sleazebag now and I say, he's got bad way. I looked at him. Then I saw him last night, and he was on CNN, which is dying, by the way, in the ratings, because they have people like him on. And I watched him last night say how he hopes I'll be defeated. And we should defeat him. We have to fight him. He should be allowed to be. And I said,
yeah, Van Jones is kind of all over the map. I'm trying to remember when it was. There was a moment where, was it after the attempted assassination, where Van Jones was kind of just glazing Donald Trump up?
Normally I'd say I wish I had that vote back, but I did the right thing. But
why do I think he praised you? Why do I think he got emotional crying, giving you credit about what you did?
I don't know. All I can tell you is he was crying in my office. That's probably what you heard. Before he got it, he was crying. He was literally, they went over to him with handkerchiefs. He was crying. Tears were pouring down his eyes before. But after, he wasn't crying, not that I know. But so he didn't mention me the night of the news conference. He was leading the news conference. And I don't need it. I get mentioned plenty of times, et cetera, et cetera. But I watched last night. It's a good place to say this, actually. It's better than writing out a truth, whatever. But I watched last night, and I watched him talk about how I must be defeated. I'm a bad guy or something. And
Van Jones is saying this.
Yeah. He said it last night. I saw him last night. I don't watch CNN. Honestly, I don't watch it. But I happen to be, I'm passing it, and I see him on, and I watched him talking about essentially negative about me. What difference does it make? Nobody cares what they do. They have, they've been fighting me for years.
Right, now, this is an interesting thing about Donald Trump. He spends an excessive amount of time watching television coverage of himself. In many ways, he was the narcissist in chief. And just imagine that, right? Instead of a president executing the job that he is elected to do, he's watching Fox News. He's watching to hear his name. There's stories about Donald Trump receiving foreign policy briefings, which apparently were too boring for him to pay attention to, and that his briefers developed a strategy of putting his name in the foreign policy briefs in order to get him to read them. Like, that's the only way that they could get him to look at the stuff that the president of the United States is supposed to do, right? He had no interest in it. He had all the interest in navel gazing. He had all the interest in narcissism. He had all the interest in hearing his own name on the news, right? You can't have a president that spends like 90% of his time watching cable news to, both try to manage his enemies, his image, to try to, figure out who his friends and his enemies are, strike back at his enemies, reward his friends. Like, I mean, this is what he did while he was president. He fucking watched TV. And he played golf.
President.
The same thing that he bitched about Obama doing.
I did much better the second time than I did the first, and now I'm doing it the third time. And if the election's not rigged, we're going to win. If it is rigged, I guess that's a different story, but we'll find out.
So in other words, he won't accept any result where he loses.
Soon. But I watched this guy last night against me, even if he was a little against me, but he wasn't. He was like, we have to defeat Trump. We have to defeat him. And I've watched him a little bit over the years, and every time I watch him, I say, what a sleazebag he is, what a bad guy. But I did it for black people. I did it for, it was purely, the only people that told me about criminal justice reform were African Americans, that's all. And I did it for them.
And he just can't help but be weird about black people.
I also did historically black colleges and universities, and I got them financing. I would see the heads of colleges come down after 2 years. They would come to Washington, like 45, 50 people, a group. They'd always come in, a big group. And I got to know them a little bit because they had to come through my office to get funding. And after the second time, I said to him, why do you keep coming down here for funding? Don't they give you? He said, no, they make us feel like beggars. That was the term. And a couple of them I got really frustrated. Some of them I still see a little bit. And I said, what does that mean? He said, every year we come down for funding for the black colleges and universities. And they play a great role, a very important role, in my opinion. So I said, so you mean every year you come down? We do. We come down together, and we go and see senators and congressmen, and we try seeing a president. But I got to know him, and I said, this is no way to live where you come down. And I ended up getting them more money than they even wanted. And I got it done, and I got it long term. And I said, fellas, I just got this done for you, and I want to tell you a little secret. I'm unhappy about it. They said, why? I said, because I'll probably never see you again. You'll never come down to Washington to see me. And I meant it actually in a friendly way because I got used to seeing them. They were always coming down looking for money. I took care of their needs long term, more money than they wanted. I said, you're going to need more money than that. And I got it for them. And I think that's why black men really like me. And I think black women do too. But they have a woman who is black, although you would say she's Indian, but she is black. But she really, a lot of people didn't know, which is true. But
I learned about it just a couple months ago. Maybe, the fact
that she's black,
yeah.
Or that she's Indian.
The fact that she's black, I thought she was Indian until a couple months ago. Things change. I mean,
a lot of people. Well,
because if you follow baseball, Sammy Sosa kind of,
They're acting like the idea that somebody having like having a mixed background is like the weirdest thing in the world, right? This is
you sometimes have to respect people. They
Sammy,
change, right? So I thought maybe she was doing a Sammy Sosa the other way.
Yeah,
around.
Sammy's changed.
Right.
She's not doing anything. She's just herself. She's got, her father is from Jamaica. Her mother is Indian. That's all it is. That's all. It's as simple as that. You don't have to be a fucking weirdo about this.
If you remember Sammy Sosa,
he could hit the ball.
He could hit the ball 66 home runs.
Seriously, he was.
But I want to show you this. And by the way, the only reason I want to show you this is because I think Van Jones is scared of giving you credit. This is what Van Jones said after what you did. And it was the most uncomfortable moment on CNN because he had to thank you. If you can play this clip, Rob, I think this is the clip. Go for it.
How significant do you think this is? By the way, one of your partners in working on this was Jared Kushner.
Jared Kushner.
This is how many years ago? This is...
The date on this, 5 years ago, December 18th, 2018.
Okay, play the clip.
So you just got that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so this is 6 years ago. If you can play this clip.
Father went to prison and who fought on this as hard as that. This is history. This is history. Right now, you're witnessing history on the floor of the U.S. Senate. There's a Christmas miracle underway where, for the first time in a generation, Republicans and Democrats are arm in arm tonight saying, we are sending too many people to prison. They're coming out bitter and not better. We want to make a tremendous difference. I want to say Hakeem Jeffries on the left, Jared Kushner, and Donald Trump on the right have brought together a coalition like I've never seen.
He gave you credit.
Literally.
Right.
But now there are freaking communist invading radicals. The National Association of Manufacturers, Fox News,
I never saw
and
that
Sean
one.
Yeah, I'm glad you've seen it because to me, you see, when I think about him, obviously, his history. He was close to Obama, communist, all that stuff. He had to kind of drop. But at the same time, they don't want him saying something like this.
No.
I want to give Hakeem
that,
Jeffries, Jared, and you to give that credit. This is the part where even Dems are sitting there saying, how the hell do we argue against the fact that a Republican president that we're not supposed to like did this? Cut him off. Just give him 30 seconds, 40 seconds. Let's go to the next topic to bash him again. But it was kind of great to see Van Jones saying this about you.
It was, but again, right after that, it was over.
He has to go back.
So
he has to go
went
back to saying things
and
about
a real man would not have done that. And I'm glad I saw that. But it really doesn't mean anything because he said it, and then after that, he took it back.
I want to show you something, and this kind of goes maybe to the next point. So yesterday, a new Gallup poll came out. Okay, if you look at this Gallup poll, this is literally from yesterday.
Okay, let me take a look here at some of these clips. I don't want to get too caught up in there's a whole interview here, and he cuts out some of the good stuff. Let's see what
State of the United States.
what's that?
Describing it as
Oh my god, what the fuck?
the conversation shift.
No. Sorry, I'm podcast summaries. Okay, this is not what I'm looking for here.
Americans' trust in mass media from 72 to 2024. It officially hit the lowest in the history. We're talking ever. Not one of the lowest. This is the lowest ever in the history of America. Americans don't trust mass media anymore. And even recently, I don't know if you saw the numbers that came out 2 weeks ago. I'm sure you follow some of this stuff. Every one of the guys at CNN, MSNBC, they're all getting a lower salary when they're renewing their contract.
Right,
they're not getting paid the kind of money.
I gotta be real with you. He is being purposely obtuse to the effect of technology on the media, right? We're talking about legacy media. We're talking about cable news. If you don't know, cable news is watched, possibly by your mom, possibly by your dad, possibly by your grandparents, your aunts and uncles, right? It is a thing that, that's how people got news back in the day, and less people are doing that. Less and less people have cable. More and more people are cutting the cord, and they get their news online. So yeah, CNN is gonna, to the extent that they can move their operations online, they can sort of stay relevant to some degree, but there's less money in cable news. That is, wow, what a discovery you've made, PBD.
Money that we're making.
Yeah.
And by the way, you may not like me saying this to you, but I think I kind of want to see your reaction to this. I know a lot of people will say, well, he has XYZ amount of felonies charged, 91, 53 were dismissed, 32 is this, and 12 are the ones that are remaining. I think the only one that Letitia James, Jack Smith, and maybe even Fannie, if they wanted to, claim that you did commit a crime, is you kind of did kill mainstream media, if you think about it.
I did.
And that could be a crime for those guys.
I'm very proud of it.
And I want to show you this clip because this is the first time ever the phrase fake news was ever used. And from this moment on is...
Oh my God, these guys are so full of shit. These guys are so full of shit. The reason that fake news came up was because there was a phenomenon on Facebook of people literally making fake news articles, of people literally producing fake stuff. And tricking your mom, your dad, your grandpa, your grandma, your aunt, your uncle, tricking Facebook boomers into thinking it was real. People are like, no, I saw it. It was on Facebook. And they didn't get that fake news was a thing. Fake news was a thing. And then this shithead came along and was like, oh yeah, the fake news media. It's the media that the problem was people were getting articles. People were getting stuff on Facebook that wasn't even from the media, that was literally made up, that was literally a lie. Right, and he takes it and turns it into well, I guess you can't trust the refs anymore. So, because he's been a con man all his fucking life. This is all that Donald Trump's ever done is lie to people, trick people, get people's confidence, and then rip them the fuck off. And that's what he's doing to the American people right now.
When the decline started, Rob, if you can go in and play this clip.
Since you're attacking us, can you give us a question?
I love how low information PBD is. And this is why I love watching this guy, right? Is that he's got a huge platform. He's got a decent amount of clout, and he's just not that smart. And it comes through a lot, right? There's a lot of shit that PBD just doesn't quite understand, right? Including the origin of the term fake news.
No, Mr. President-elect.
Go ahead.
Since you are attacking our news organization, can you give us a chance?
Your organization
You are attacking our news organization.
Your organization.
Can you give us a chance to ask a question, sir?
Go ahead.
Sir, can you state, Mr. President-elect,
go ahead.
Can you state categorically,
She's asking a question. Don't
Mr.
be rude.
President-elect, can you give us a question?
Don't be rude.
You're attacking us. Can you give us a question?
Don't be rude.
Can you give us a question?
I'm not going to give you a
Can
question.
you state categorically?
You are fake news.
Sir,
go ahead.
Can you state categorically that nobody... No, Mr. President-elect...
I love how they're flexing Donald Trump's inability to answer a question. We heard before where he's asked about Google and he pivots to something else. Like he did this to not the Nelk Boys. Who was it? He did this to Flagrant too, right? He would not stay on topic. There are, questions he doesn't want to answer. People always say that Kamala does this, but Trump has made a fucking career of it.
That's not appropriate.
Yeah, you're asking me a hard question. I'm going to ignore you.
So, if you can,
but isn't that disgusting? Think of it, and that would...
Isn't that disgusting? Yes, a president too afraid to answer a question from the media because he's been fucking busted as a liar, which he was time after time after time.
Never happened to a Democrat. But isn't that disgusting? He's a lowlife, the guy, and as you know, and he has his own show. He gets no ratings at all. Nobody on CNN gets ratings. But isn't that a disgusting? I'm just watching that, and isn't it a shame that people can behave that way against the president?
Isn't it a shame that the media can ask tough questions of the president? Isn't it great that I can come on Patrick Bet David and be ensured that I won't get asked anything like that?
And I think...
I mean, this is Nixon's dream, right? I was telling you before about like how Fox News is created from a template that was hatched under Richard Nixon with Roger Ailes, the head of Fox News, before he had his sexual harassment scandal, was working in the Nixon White House. The Nixon White House was trying to figure out how they could bypass the media, because the media would ask them tough questions. The media would destroy their narratives. The media would hold them up to scrutiny, and they wanted to go right to the American people and be able to just fucking lie. And Roger Ailes came up with the idea we should have our own network, GOP TV. Nixon didn't think that would work. Nixon thought that was too much. Nixon thought that would be seen as propaganda, which it would have been, right? But then Roger Ailes years later gets a chance to create Fox News, and there you have essentially that fulfillment of the dream. Richard Nixon is rolling around in his grave right now, jealous of Donald Trump, because Trump is fulfilling his dream. Trump is able to exist in a fact-free zone, is able to pick and choose the media that he will engage with, and doesn't even have the scrutiny for doing that. Kamala Harris, when she doesn't do enough interviews, gets all kinds of shit. Donald Trump has been doing this the whole fucking time. Refuses to answer a question.
I think I'm responsible for those numbers up there where they went down. And frankly, I'm proud of it, because I also am responsible for the term fake news. And that's a great... You're not.
You commandeered that term. That was a term to refer to Facebook articles that were passing as like actual news, but were in fact like just literally lies. Like, no, I'm not saying that they were spin, because we talk about fake, we talk about lies, we talk about like misleading media, and there is a lot of that. Every media source is going to have a perspective, and they're going to try to have a certain degree of spin, but we're not talking about any of that.
But now there are freaking communist invading radicals.
We're not talking about deceptive framing. When we're talking about fake news, we're talking about literal articles about things that didn't fucking happen, right? That's what fake news was, and we honestly need to have a word for that, because that shit is still with us to a large degree. Just look at Twitter. But no, he comes along and commandeers it and just turns it into like, it's almost like the toxic masculinity discourse, right? Toxic masculinity, if you don't know, doesn't describe all masculinity. It describes like a certain tendency that's culturally encouraged, like a certain pattern of behavior, but it's not saying that masculinity is toxic, right? Despite the fact that people that don't like that term will tell you that's what it means. In the same way, fake news was not supposed to mean the news is fake, but it becomes a super convenient narrative for this guy when he doesn't want to be subjected to scrutiny. And so he commandeers that and takes that, don't listen to them, they're the fake news. Like the people that are catching you on your lies, the people that are debunking it, the people that are showing the fucking receipts, they are fake news. So don't worry, you don't have to listen to them. Instead, you can look at QAnon bullshit, right? Because that's not fake news. You can dream of pizza parlors underground that are harvesting adrenochrome from babies, right? That's not fake news. Our relationship to the truth has suffered under 4 years of Donald Trump and continues to suffer with the Trumpification of the Republican Party. And until somebody on that side is going to come up and point out the fact that this emperor is in fact naked and that his wrinkly balls are hanging down, we're going to continue to suffer that tortured relationship with the truth. The truth is a distant memory at this point, right?
Strong enough. I think it's corrupt news is a better term, but it doesn't play as well. But they're corrupt people.
Yeah, this guy is the swamp. He came in to drain the swamp. He had 4 years. He didn't do shit because he is the corrupter. He said this in the Republican debate. If people had actually listened, right, he bragged about the fact that he had been the one to make no donations to politicians to get them on his side. When they tried to get him on the fact that he was a Hillary Clinton supporter, and why should a Hillary Clinton supporter be running for president as a Republican, he was like, oh yeah, because I corrupt both sides. That's what I do. That's what everybody does. And you know, the only way that you're going to get out of that is what, to elect me as president? I mean, it's twisted. It's fucking twisted.
And disgusting people. But he is he wasn't as bad as some. I mean, in a certain way, he was louder, but he wasn't as smart as some. I mean, some are much smarter. He's not as smart.
Did you think you were going to say fake news, or was it just kind of came out and then it's...
Okay, yeah, brilliant Trump for coming up with fake news. Anyway, there's one more thing I want to check out with you, and then we're going to get to the main topic of the stream.
Why wouldn't they want to have a strong border? I don't understand them, because, you know, usually like in business, you'll understand why somebody wants something. Why wouldn't they want to have a strong border? Why
wouldn't you want to spend exorbitant amounts of money to hermetically seal the border with a giant border wall, a la the Soviet, you know, a la the Berlin Wall, right? You know, with your papers, please procedure, rather than actually creating a meaningful pathway to citizenship, right? That's what he's asking. That's what he's asking.
Why do they want to have men playing in women's sports? I watched the Olympics and two people transition.
Davy Cliff super chatted $9.
Here we go again.
I miss the Lyndon LaRouche types of conspiracies. The modern ones have lost the fun.
You're right. Lyndon LaRouche is a lot more fun than this guy. And look, like, I don't know. Can we get back to the Lyndon LaRouche conspiracies after? I mean, trust chat. Lyndon LaRouche was his own kind of scumbag. Lyndon LaRouche is, kind of a fascist that plays at being a iconoclast, anti-establishment type, right? But yeah, more interesting than the Trump ones, and it's a lot more intelligent than Donald Trump. That's the other thing, is like when I say he's a naked emperor, that's part of what I'm saying. He's not a smart man, and our politics has gotten a lot stupider since he's been involved in it.
Into womanhood. Two people. They went from man to woman.
He's just lying. This didn't happen. Trans people, for the record, have been, allowed to participate in the Olympics for 20 years now, to very minimal effect. In fact, there have been, I don't believe, any gold medals won by trans athletes, right? So it's been, they've been allowed to participate. Their participation has not affected the outcome of the Olympics at all. But what he's talking about is not even trans people, right? What he's talking about is cis people who...
And they were into boxing. And they beat the hell out of everyone. They won the gold medal. Weightlifting. Records that held for...
So now it's not even about, like, trans people, right? It's about, if you're cis, you got to worry, are you going to be transvestigated? Are they going to want to come and do a karyotype test on you and try to disqualify you for participating in the sport that you've trained all your fucking life for, right?
18 years, a quarter of an ounce on each side. You've seen me do it probably. because it's so cool. I mean, weightlifting is so easy to, it's so descriptive, right? How can you be better than that? Like golf is a little bit harder because you have to sink putts. That's different. Women can putt, but they can't lift, 450 pounds over their head. And the weightlifting record that stood for 18, 19 years gets broken by 100 pounds. I mean, they put like a little, they take this top of this pen. See that pen? That thing weighs like 1/8 of an ounce. And they'd put one over here and one over.
What is he talking about?
For 18 years, and the guy comes along. It's crazy.
I mean, the border could make sense, though. If you were to say, like, why would they want the border to be
why
open?
Do they want
an
open
argument
border?
To be made there.
Well, why do they want an open border with no check-in? In other words...
No, I mean, here's the deal. Like, immigration doesn't happen for no reason. When you're talking about immigration, or you're talking about mass immigration, you're talking about a whole bunch of people picking up their fucking roots and leaving their home to move to another country. Now, that doesn't happen if there's not something massively wrong in the country that they're living in. Take, for instance, a place where a lot of recent immigrants, have come from, Venezuela, right? Venezuela was afflicted by sanctions decreed by Donald Trump. So the immigration that he's complaining about, he is in a large degree responsible for. His foreign policy towards Venezuela resulted in these waves of immigration, and then he gets to use it as a fucking issue to be like, they're bringing in the Venezuelans, right? And rather than actually doing something meaningful, which is, like passing an immigration reform bill where there's actually a pathway to immigration, where immigration actually makes sense, they just want to build a wall. They just want to fucking they just want to waste a whole bunch of money on a meaningless fucking wall.
There's nobody vetted, nobody checked. And as you heard 2 weeks ago, the Border Patrol put out the numbers. They weren't supposed to, but they did because they had to. Because they had to inherently, they endorsed me.
I saw that.
They endorsed me. 100% unanimous, like a massive, they said he's the greatest in the history of, I had the best border in the history of the country. I had the best economy in the history of the country. But
oh my God, nobody's going to check him. He's so full of shit. I had the best economy in the history of the country. Obama's economy was better than his. Like straight up. Now PBD PBD might be able to try to put some spin on that and be like, well, what about quantitative easing?
Debbie Cliff super chatted $9.99. Women were actually way better at powerlifting pound for pound due to the fact they can arch their back so much better than men.
Yeah, good point, Davy Cliff. Guy won't explain refugees. Refugees. When he talks about refugees, the word asylum comes up, and he immediately connects asylum with Hannibal. Who do we know that's from an asylum? Hannibal Lecter, right? Asylum, if you don't know, is when you're a refugee from a country that's politically destabilized, which is dangerous, right? And you're seeking asylum. You're seeking safety. And that is a human right. That is what countries are supposed to do for each other. When people are in danger in their own countries, you're supposed to let people in under asylum. And Donald Trump turns this into somehow being about Hannibal Lecter. Davy Cliff says women were actually way better at powerlifting pound for pound due to the fact that they can arch their back so much better than men. Yeah, in terms of the pounds lifted versus the pounds of the athlete.
These stats. So yesterday, a young woman's playing volleyball. You saw that shot? And he got hit by a hard shot by a man who transitioned.
There's been many of those. If there was a new one yesterday.
She got hit in the head. She didn't know where she was.
Right.
Yeah, it's happening all the fucking time, except it's fucking not. And except that these guys will call like they're now like talking about cis women as being trans because of suspected anomalies in their hormone levels or their karyotype, right?
She said, "I've never seen a ball travel at that speed before." But here's why do they want that? I don't understand that. Usually,
it's wild how much we're mixing.
Understand, like somebody.
This is the weave, I guess. He can't just talk about like one thing. He's got to talk about immigration and trans athletes.
You try and figure it out. And you could go through a lot of things. You know, why do they want transgender? Why do they want to take somebody's child, a boy?
Is he going to do the thing where you send your child away to school, a boy, and he comes back a girl? They're doing, look, I forget which late night host it was that made this joke, but like, they won't let your kid go to the planetarium without a signed permission slip from the parents. What makes you think that they would do like bottom surgery? What makes you think that they do like gender confirming surgery on your kid just like on a whim, right? It's like he's just fucking lying. He's just fucking lying. Like the nugget of truth that's there is like schools that have rules where like, I don't know, if a child confides in the teacher, hey teacher, I think I'm trans, but my parents aren't okay with it. Then the teacher doesn't have to be like, hey, parents, by the way, your kid told me that they're trans. Go ahead and fucking punish them or kick them out or abuse them, right? Because you're a piece of shit, right? You're a piece of shit bigot that won't accept your trans kid, right? That's the nugget of truth that's there. And they're turning this into, they're doing surgeries on the children and they go to school and they come home and they've got, like...
and make the boy into a girl.
There we go. He's so full of shit.
And not tell the parents.
You have to figure it out yourself.
I mean, they do this. And at first,
no, they don't do that. They don't fucking do that. God, if they did that, I would have taken advantage of that. But no,
that's just an exaggeration. No, it's not. It's
a straight up lie. That's right. It's not an exaggeration. It's more than an exaggeration. It is a fucking untruth.
State of California.
Why do they want to? Yeah. Well, look at California. Gavin Newsom, who's one of the worst governors, but
he is a bad governor. Right? There's a homelessness crisis, and his solution is to push to further marginalize homeless people, right? Yeah, he is a piece of shit. He is a Newsom. He absolutely is. Just not for the reasons that this piece of shit thinks. Gavin Newsom is too conservative. Gavin Newsom is a new breed of coastal right-wing Democrat. He's the Anna Kasparian effect at work.
A good line of stuff, and he'll tell everyone how well he's done, but it's the first time they've ever lost more people than they gained. You know, they have such an advantage. The beautiful ocean, the beautiful weather, everything is beautiful. And they run it so badly with all of the problems. They run it so...
Look, I'll be honest with you. I don't know what he's talking about, and I don't think he knows what he's talking about. Dude is fucking sundowning. Anyway, that's all the time we have for Donald Trump on the PBD podcast. I'll see if there's anything else on here. I mean, these are two of my favorite guys. These are two of the least intelligent, like per the amount of respect that they have, per the amount of fans that they have, per the appraisal of the right wing towards these guys' intelligence, they have like the least amount of intelligence. So it's kind of funny. It's very much a naked emperor sort of situation, but we got to get to our own naked emperor today, and that is streamer Destiny. So if you're watching me on Shorts, okay, make sure to leave a like. You can subscribe if you want to have an easy time finding me again. I've got some links for you there on the pinned links to my Twitch channel. If you'd rather watch me on Twitch, you can click there. If you'd rather watch me on the full-scale screen, you can watch me there. We're going to end Shorts. We're going to say goodbye to Shorts for now. So bye-bye, Shorts. But if you'd like to, the stream is not over. The stream is not ending. The stream will continue on Twitch and on YouTube, right? We're also streaming full screen on YouTube. So I've got the links for you there. If you want to click on one of those, I'm going to end the stream. It might kind of read you into the full-scale stream. So, maybe you won't have to do anything. But the easiest way is just to click that. So thank you, everybody. Much love. And you can support me on Patreon. And make sure to like and subscribe. Anyway, I'm going to end this stream. But we're going to keep the other stream going. All right, so here we go.